She said it the way people say things they have believed for so long they have stopped noticing they believe them, not with heat, not with the particular sharpness of a calculated insult, with the flat, ambient certainty of someone stating a condition of the world, the way you'd say, the sky is gray today, or the traffic was bad coming in, a thing so established in her understanding that it had stopped requiring justification. You will never succeed at anything real, my stepmother Helen said. You never have. You never will. It is simply who you are. She said it at my father's kitchen table on a Saturday morning in March, over coffee, while he was in the garden, in the particular window that Helen had always understood was available when my father was somewhere else. My younger half-brother Josh was at the counter, back turned, making toast. He was 22 and had been navigating the specific discomfort of being the child shared between the woman who had just said this and the man in the garden for his entire life. He made the toast without turning around. This was how he managed. I had never blamed him. I appreciate your perspective, I said. Helen looked at me with the mild contempt of someone who finds composure in a person they've dismissed an irritating affectation. Do you? She said. I do, I said. Always have. I picked up my coffee cup. I took one slow sip. I set it down, and I thought about the board meeting on Tuesday, where I would be sitting at the head of the table of the company Helen had worked at for 9 years. In the role she considered the most significant professional accomplishment of her life, in front of the 12 people who reported to the organization's structure, an organization that had been mine through the acquisition I had completed 17 months ago, since before Helen's last 2 performance reviews. I said nothing about the board meeting. I finished my coffee. I said goodbye to my father in the garden, and I drove back to the city with the specific calm of someone who has learned that the most powerful response to being told who you are is to already know. My name is Sloane Merritt. I am 34 years old. And this is the story of how my stepmother told me I would never succeed, and discovered, 17 months too late, that she had been working for me the entire time. My father married Helen when I was 15. She arrived with a 9-year-old son, strong opinions, and the particular organizational energy of a woman who had spent her adult life making order out of whatever environment she occupied. She remade my father's household with the focused efficiency of someone who found disorder a form of negligence. The kitchen, the schedules, the social calendar, the general atmosphere of a home that had existed without her for 15 years, and which she apparently considered to have been waiting for her arrival to become fully functional. She was competent. I want to say that clearly because it is true, and because the story requires accuracy. She was genuinely, demonstrably competent at her job, at running a household, at the social performance of being a successful, professional woman in a city that valued exactly that kind of performance. What she was not was interested in me, not in the active hostile sense. In the more corrosive passive sense, the sense of someone who has assessed a situation and concluded that the return on investment is insufficient to justify the expenditure. I was 15, sullen in the particular way of teenagers who have watched their family restructure around a new center, and possessed of exactly none of the characteristics Helen valued. I was not organized, not socially polished, not visibly ambitious in any direction she recognized as legitimate. I was interested in things she considered impractical. I read constantly. I had, from early adolescence, been fascinated by companies, not the products they made or the services they offered, but the structures, the way they were built and owned and governed. The gap between what a company appeared to be from the outside and what it actually was when you looked at its ownership documents. Helen had called this impractical. She had called me impractical, in various phrasings and registers for 19 years, Saturday morning in March was simply the most recent delivery. I had founded Merritt Capital Group at 26. 8 years of building. Patient, disciplined, the kind of growth that does not announce itself because the people doing it have learned that announcement is a liability until the thing being announced is undeniable. We were a private equity firm with a specific, narrow focus. Mid-market companies in the professional services sector that were operationally sound but ownership challenged. Family businesses whose second generation wasn't interested. Founder-led firms whose founders were approaching transition without a plan. Companies that had been built well and were being positioned for sale to buyers who would likely extract their value and dismantle their culture. We acquired them. We restructured their governance. We installed professional management where needed and retained what was working where it was working. We held them, grew them, and either sold them strategically or continued to hold them when the returns justified the patience. In 8 years we had completed 11 acquisitions. The 11th, completed 17 months ago, was a professional development and corporate training company called Ardent Group. Ardent Group delivered leadership training, executive coaching, and organizational development programs to mid-sized corporate clients across 6 states. It had been founded 22 years ago by a woman named Patricia Ardent, who had built it from a one-person consultancy into a 50-person firm with $12 million in annual revenue. Patricia had been ready to transition. She had found in Merritt Capital Group a buyer who understood what she had built and had committed, contractually and in practice, to preserving it. We had acquired Ardent Group for $18 million. Helen had worked there for 9 years. She was Director of Client Services, the firm's third-ranking position, responsible for managing all client relationships above a certain account threshold, and for the team of 12 client managers who reported to her. It was, by every measure she had ever applied to professional achievement, an impressive role. She had been working for me, without knowing it, for 17 months. I had known since the first week of due diligence. When the employee roster had crossed my desk as part of the standard documentation review, and I had found her name and her title and her 9 years of tenure in a company I was preparing to acquire. My general counsel had asked, during the review, "Any concerns about the employee list?" "None," I had said, and I had meant it professionally because there were none. Helen was, by Patricia Ardent's assessment and by the performance data in the files, genuinely good at her job. Client retention in her portfolio was above the firm's average. Her team's performance reviews were consistently strong. Whatever she was in my father's kitchen on Saturday mornings, in the context of Ardent Group, she was exactly what the company needed in that role. I had acquired the company for its value. I had retained Helen for hers. I had told no one. The board meeting on Tuesday was a quarterly review. Standard cadence, nothing unusual. I attended all Ardent Group board meetings personally, because I considered direct engagement with portfolio company governance a non-negotiable part of responsible ownership. Ardent's new CEO, a measured and excellent woman named Dana Reyes, whom I had recruited specifically for this role 4 months after acquisition, ran the meeting with the confident efficiency of someone who had been given clear mandate and competent support and had done well with both. I sat at the head of the table. 12 people in the room. Helen was not among them. The board meeting was executive level, CEO, CFO, the board itself. Helen's role sat one level below this layer. The meeting covered Q1 performance, the new client pipeline, a proposed expansion into 2 additional markets, and a talent development initiative Dana had been building and which I found genuinely impressive in its design. At the end of the meeting, Dana mentioned that she was planning a quarterly all-staff address for the following week. "I'd like you to say a few words, if you're willing," she said, looking at me. "Some of the senior staff have been curious about the ownership structure since the acquisition. It might be useful for them to hear directly from you." I thought about this. "Yes," I said. "I'll say a few words." The all-staff address was held on a Thursday morning, 52 people in Ardent's main conference space. The full staff, arranged in the specific configuration of a company that has learned, under Patricia's long tenure and Dana's more recent leadership, to treat these gatherings as genuine exchanges rather than performances. I stood at the front of the room. I spoke for 7 minutes. I described what Merritt Capital Group was, what we looked for in acquisitions, why we had acquired Ardent specifically, the quality of the model Patricia had built, the strength of the client relationships, the talent in the room. I described what our ownership meant practically: stable capital, patient growth orientation, no interest in extraction. I was 3 minutes in when I saw Helen. She was seated in the 4th row, between 2 of her direct reports. With the composed professional attention she brought to everything she considered worth her professional effort, she had not known I was coming. She had not known, based on her expression when I walked to the front of the room, that I was anything other than what I appeared to be, a stranger with a lanyard that said visitor. Then Dana introduced me. "Sloane Merritt," Dana said. "Founder and managing partner of Merritt Capital Group, Ardent's ownership since 17 months ago." I watched Helen hear my name. I watched the specific sequence that followed: recognition, confusion, recalculation, and then the particular stillness of someone whose internal architecture is reorganizing itself around new information that contradicts a structure it has been supporting for a very long time. She did not make a sound. She did not move. She sat in the 4th row with the composed, professional stillness of a woman who had spent 30 years learning how to hold difficult things without letting them show, and held this one, visibly, at significant cost. I finished my remarks. I thanked the staff. I sat down beside Dana. She found me afterward. Not immediately. She waited until the room had cleared sufficiently that the conversation would be relatively private, which told me she had made a decision about how she wanted to approach this and had chosen discretion over impulse. This was, I noted, consistent with how she operated professionally. She crossed the room. She stopped 2 feet from where I was standing. "Sloane," she said, my name with a specific weight I had not heard from her before. "Helen," I said. She looked at me for a long moment. "How long?" she said. 17 months, I said. "You acquired this company," she said. "You have been the owner of this company for 17 months. Yes, and you never." "It's a portfolio company," I said. "My ownership is disclosed in the corporate documents. It's not a secret. It simply wasn't relevant to our personal situation." She looked at the room, the conference space, the Ardent Group branding on the wall, the company she had given 9 years to, and which had, for 17 of the past months, belonged to her stepdaughter. "The acquisition," she said slowly. 18 months ago. Patricia sold. 17 months ago," I said. "Yes, I thought she sold to a private equity group called Merritt Capital Group," I said. "Yes." She absorbed this. "I've been working for you," she said. "You've been working for Ardent Group," I said, "which is in our portfolio." "Yes." A silence, then she said something I had not expected. Not an apology. I had not expected an apology, had not arrived at this moment hoping for one, had not engineered the Thursday morning address with any intention other than the one I had stated to Dana: transparency with the staff about ownership. What she said was, "Am I good at this job?" I looked at her, the question, arriving without the architecture of performance she usually deployed, was the most unguarded thing she had said to me in 19 years of Saturday mornings, and kitchen tables and coffee cups placed just so. Yes, I said. Your retention numbers are the strongest in the firm. Your team's performance is consistently above benchmark. Patricia spoke highly of you in every conversation we had during due diligence. I paused. You are very good at this job. She was quiet for a moment. You retained me, she said. I retain what works, I said. She looked at her hands briefly, then at me. Saturday, she said. What I said. I know what you said, I said. You said it in front of Josh, who was making toast and trying not to hear it. She pressed her lips together. I have said versions of that, she said carefully, for a long time. 19 years, I said. Yes. And all that time, I was building this, I said. Yes. A silence that had a different quality from any silence that had ever existed between us. Not the managed distance of her performance or the careful neutrality of mine, but something that had, for a moment, put both of those down. I was wrong, she said, 3 words. No decoration. I held them. Yes, I said. You were. I don't know if that helps, she said. It does, I said. Not everything, but something. I told my father that evening, not about the address, about the acquisition, about the 17 months, about Helen in the 4th row. He listened the way he always listened when the subject required it, with the full, quiet attention of a man who had spent 30 years in medicine and understood that some information needed to be received carefully. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. She called you, he said. On Saturday, she said what she always says, I said, that I would never succeed at anything real. He was quiet again. I heard her, he said. I know, I said. I was in the garden, he said. I know, Dad. I came back inside, he said. You were already gone. I should have been there for that conversation. I've been not being there for a lot of conversations. Yes, I said. You have. I'm sorry, he said. I thought about Saturday, about the coffee cup, about Josh making toast with his back turned, and the specific posture of a 22-year-old trying to be invisible inside a scene he had been living inside for his entire life. Come to the city next weekend, I said. Bring Josh. I'll show you the office. A pause. Both of us? He said. Both of you, I said. It's time. My father and Josh came the following Saturday. Josh walked through the office with the wide-open attention of a 22-year-old encountering something he had not known to expect. The staff, the work, the particular atmosphere of an organization that had been built with care and was operating accordingly. At one point, he stopped in front of the portfolio wall, the display where we kept abbreviated profiles of each acquisition, the companies in our portfolio, the stories of what they had been and what they were becoming. He found Ardent Group. He read it. He turned to me. This is Mom's company, he said. It's in our portfolio, I said. Yes. He looked at the profile, then at me. She had no idea, he said. No, I said. She didn't. She found out on Thursday? Yes. He was quiet for a moment, 22 years old. Standing in the office of the half-sister his mother had spent 19 years telling herself would never succeed. How did she take it? He said. I thought about the conference room, the 4th row, the question she had asked without her architecture around it. Better than I expected, I said honestly. He nodded slowly, then he said, quietly, in the tone he used when he was saying something he had been holding, I always knew you were doing something. She couldn't see it. I know, I said. I'm sorry I never said that before, he said. You were making toast, I said. That was enough. He laughed, surprised, genuine, the laugh of someone who has been handed an unexpected grace. I laughed too. My father, from across the office, looked over at the sound and smiled in the way of a man who has been standing in gardens for too long and has finally come inside. Before you go, I need your honest answer in the comments right now. Should Sloane have told Helen about the acquisition from the beginning, or was 17 months of silence the most powerful move she ever made? This question splits people right down the middle, and I genuinely cannot pick a side. Tell me where you land. If this story hits something real, if you have ever been told you would never succeed by someone who had no idea what you were building, hit that like button so this story reaches every person who needs to hear it today. Share it with someone who is in the building phase right now, being dismissed by the wrong people for the right reasons. And if you believe that the most devastating response to being underestimated is to simply keep building until the building speaks for itself, subscribe, because every week this channel tells the stories of women who were told they'd never make it and made everything. You do not want to miss what comes next. Your first month of Audible is completely free. Over 500,000 titles in the description below. For the builders. For the ones still in the quiet years before the room finds out. The link is there. Use it.